The Ottawa Senators snapped the Dallas Stars win streak with a 3-2 win on Sunday afternoon, but plenty of positives to take out of the first 4 games of this road trip. We'll break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The Dallas Stars win streak comes to a close at 7 games, and so does the point streak at 9, following a 3-2 loss at the hands of the Ottawa Senators. But plenty of positives to take out of this road trip so far, including Mavrik Bourque growing with confidence and Miro Heiskanen putting on some Norris Trophy level defending. We're going to break down the game. We're going to talk about Mavrik Bourque and Miro Heiskanen and get into the road trip finale coming up in a few days. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. This episode will be going up on Sunday night, but will serve as my Monday edition of Locked On Stars as well. So let's break down tonight's game against the Senators, where the Stars got off to a really nice start. They opened the scoring, a beautiful play off the rush between Dodonov, Rope Hintz, and Jason Robertson, who was on the business end of the tally and has been on an absolute tear. Robertson's 11th goal of the season, and the Stars had really good legs following last night's win over Montreal, which was a physical and taxing game against the Habs. And as the game wore along, Dallas just looked really weary, and Ottawa continued to get better and better. The Stars had 8 of the first 10 shots in the first 15 minutes of the first period between both sides, and then Dallas was stuck on 8 shots until halfway through the hockey game. They just could not make plays out of their own zone. In the first 10 minutes, the defensemen were working the puck up quickly, especially in transition. The Stars were making tape-to-tape passes. They were crisp, and they were getting in on the forecheck, and they were getting rewarded for that effort. And that just came to a halt as Ottawa was all over Dallas and coming in waves. And credit to the Senators, who played a pretty physical brand of hockey, and they started to really push Dallas to the brink, and the Stars just looked exhausted and could not put 2 passes together. They struggled to get the puck past the red line in the second period, and for really the majority of the game outside of the first 10 minutes of the first period. And you could just feel the equalizer coming from the Sens in the second period. Josh Norris gets it, and then Stützle, who was flying around the sheet. He had monster legs in the game. He made Matt Dumba look like he was stuck in quicksand a couple of times in the game. DeSmith held them in for as long as he could. He kind of got off his angle, and he got all sort of contorted on the Stützle goal as Sanderson curled behind the nets. But he did his part to try to keep Dallas in it for as long as he could. Unfortunately, the big turning point in the game felt like Rope Hintz's power play goal that got taken off the board pretty late in the second period. Dallas was struggling. They get a break on a tripping minor on Miro Heiskanen to draw the man advantage, and then boom, Dallas went to work. And I love the approach and change of strategy to go to the goal line and use the triangle passing play. They scored on it on the 6-on-4 late in regulation to cut the deficit to 1 with the Dodonov goal. Pretty much similar stuff with Miro to Robo. Robo doesn't even wait, just puts it in front on the blade of Hintz, and he was able to punch one home to get the Stars back to level. At least we thought the Stars were back to level. The Sens challenged it, and Roope Hintz was just a skosh offside. The replay we got on Victory Plus showed Wyatt Johnston, and I believe Johnston was onside. He looked good to go. The NHL did release an official statement, and they deemed Roope Hintz offside on that play, which really, really stunk. But look, that's how it goes, and it sort of killed any momentum that Dallas sort of had. They didn't have a ton, but it was a spark, at least, in a game where you really needed the special teams to help you out, and it sort of did. But they end up going 1 for 4 on the night. And obviously, if they get that tally, who knows? Maybe they pick up a point in the game, but that sort of hurt the Stars' chances to come back. Although I felt really strong about Dallas. I was confident that they could come out in the third period and sort of erase the deficit and at least earn something out of the contest, because the final 3 minutes of the second, there was some life in their game looking for the equalizer, but those hopes were quickly dashed early in the third as another turnover by Dallas ends up in their own nets as Highmore put in his first of the season. So the offside call was sort of the critical call in the game. It was right, but of course a little depressing, especially in a game where Dallas was already struggling to make plays. They just could not make a pass out of their own zone. It was just creeping across the blue line. Senators shoot it back in and defend. It was an absolute chore for Dallas to make any sort of play in between the blue lines, and the Senators deserve to win this game. Let's not get it twisted. They were certainly the better team on the night, and Dallas just did not have legs really outside of Jason Robertson. I thought Robertson was great in the game. He had some really hard blue-collar shifts. He almost set up Roope in the second period too because of his hard work. He lifted a stick on a Sens defender, was able to work it out in front. Hintz was barreling in, and Miro Heiskanen made a pretty nice save on Roope Hintz, and who ended up with a handful of nice chances. But outside of that, not much for Dallas. Out of 5-on-5, Stars had 10 scoring chances in the game. Ottawa had 28. That's sort of the story of the night. Senators doubled up their chances in the high danger area too, 10-5 at 5-on-5. And as much as Dallas was struggling, I love the push at the end. There was no quit. They made it interesting. Dodonov, who picked up his 12th of the season on the power play, who's having a fantastic year, has as many goals this season as he did in 42 games last year. Stankoven gets an assist on it too. Good to get him on the score sheet. He just needs to continue to pick up some points here and there because he deserves some, and he just is so snake bitten. Wyatt Johnston ended up with 3 scoring chances on the night himself at 5-on-5, which was the most by any other Dallas Star in the game. But it was a struggle for most of the contest. The puck management was really poor for Dallas. It was really evident in the second period. And after they gave up the insurance goal to Ottawa, Dallas was trying to make things happen, and they just coughed up the puck and gave it away to Ottawa. And they neutralized a lot of their opportunities due to self-inflicted wounds. But it leaves me positive coming out of the game, where Dallas, I felt, did more to hurt themselves than Ottawa made Dallas look inferior, right? I still feel like Dallas is the better team on paper. They weren't in the game, but to hang in there and, you get a late tally with 6-on-4, I thought it showed some growth in character, where they were in it towards the end, and at some point you were going to run into a squad that's going to have a good night against you, and your win streak comes to a close at what, 7 games, which is unfortunate with the way Dallas was rolling, but good fight at the end. And again, your big boys are showing up. That is the good sign. Like Hens and Robertson were really the two that were sort of making some plays off the rush and being creative and trying to get pucks on net. But Dallas heavily outshot in that second period, 16-7 in the middle period. And the fact that they came out of it only trailing by 1, it was like, okay, there's a chance here, but credit to the Sens for getting the early tally. And Dadonov was credited with the best game score on the night for Dallas at 2.36. He has a goal and an assist in the game, but outside of that, it was all Senators, and they defended really strong. Sanderson had a great game. Stützle and Tkachuk did their thing. Again, I thought they brought a physical brand to Dallas, and the Stars could just not match it on a night after playing a really taxing game against Montreal, having to play past 60 minutes too. It's tough to get up and do it again on an afternoon or an evening against a squad that's younger and had fresher legs and had some different guys in the lineup that had not played a ton the night previous, and they deserved the win and they got it. But again, the Stars are starting to turn a corner a bit, and I sat there watching the game feeling like Dallas is right in this thing. And a month ago, I wouldn't have been saying that because when they go into a third period trailing or they're down, just feels like they were really never in it in a large chunk of some games this season. And it's starting to sort of flip-flop a bit where they're starting to not look like they're out of it. And that's a great sign. And I think a big part of that is the emergence of players like Mavrik Bourque, Miro, with some excellent Norris Trophy level defending. And when your top lines and your top guys are producing, it makes things a lot easier. Let's touch on a lot of the positives we've seen in the first 4 games of this road trip that I want to discuss because it's been such a strong week and a half for Dallas. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets when you bet that first $5 lineup. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. And the best thing about it is you don't even have to win that first $5 bet, and you can still get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit the website FanDuel.com to get in on the action. The NFL playoffs are here. Wildcard weekend is always a blast. The Packers fell to the Eagles here today. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get in on the action. You can watch tonight's contest between the Buccaneers and Commandos and make some bread, I should say. The Commanders. Anyways, get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Mavrik Bourque is really starting to emerge here during this road trip for Dallas. And I've made a point over the last few games to really keep a close eye on Bourque and his shifts and just watch where he is on the ice during his shifts. And I have to say, confidence is certainly starting to increase for him, but his spatial awareness and I think overall positioning as a player is really strong. I think he has a high hockey IQ, and you can just tell the way he positions himself in the defensive zone where he can anchor down in front. And he defends, I think, really, really well for a guy that doesn't have a ton of size, but he's starting to understand how to use his body position and get his stick on opponents and just disrupt plays. And then, especially in the offensive zone, he just has a knack for finding some of those soft areas. And really, the when the puck's on his stick, it has certainly been a night and day difference from what we saw in the first 20, 25 games of the season. Like, he's holding on to the puck. His puck management is so much better, especially along the walls. I feel like he's starting to win and come out of those board battles with the puck a lot more. And he just has a real comfort level along with Steele and Stankoven, who have turned into a really nice trio for Dallas. But just watching him play, the positioning and where he is to help himself and support his teammates, I think is really, really high quality. And I enjoy watching him play here over the last week. The game in New York, where he just had so many looks. Then he gets rewarded with the goal the next game in Philly, I believe, by crashing the net. He's starting to get to the puddle a bit more, and he's taking the puck to some of those dangerous areas where he wasn't getting to early in the season, and he just could not find room, or he didn't have the ability to get there against players that, of course, are bigger, stronger, and faster at this level. He's starting to figure it out, and you can just tell with the way his mind and his play is really churning. It's fun to watch, and it gives Dallas, again, I said this a few weeks ago, it gives Dallas another layer of attack. And when Dallas is starting to get this improvement from guys like Bourque and Beck, and hopefully Stankoven can find the score sheet more consistently, this is where Dallas can really be dangerous in the second half. And I thought it was pretty enlightening when Razor said in the game about the amount of rookies and sort of new faces Dallas has had this season. And maybe there was a lot of unrealistic expectations from myself and maybe a sector of Stars fans about where we saw the Stars coming in at the start of the year. But now we're, just about halfway through the season, and rookies are really no longer rookies anymore. And they have experience under their belt. They're starting to understand what they can and cannot do. And we're starting to get players like Mavrik Bourque and Beck. And you can throw Steele into that conversation, although he's not really a rookie. He's very experienced. But even Blumel and Huru that have sort of, jumped up here, and Ridscovian, they're starting to come along and join the Johnstons and the Hints and Robos, right? Where now you have everybody sort of in a similar state of their conditioning, of their game, just sort of like Robertson, right, who was dealing with an injury coming into the season. And Johnston missed a lot of training camp, right? Now these guys are sort of catching up to the pace and what it takes to win games consistently in the NHL. And Bourque has been a part of that evolution of the Stars right now in the middle of the season. And it gives you a lot of hope for the second half and possibly the additions of what Dallas could possibly bring in at the trade deadline. Like, now you're seeing players like Bourque really start to catch up, and it gives Dallas another edge. And you can see it just in the way the Stars are competing recently. Like, they're just in hockey games, whereas you felt like for a large chunk of the first 30 games, it was just, you never knew what you were going to get from the Stars. I think you can say with some more certainty, like, okay, this is what Dallas is and how they want to play. Even like a Matt Dumba, right, who I think has had some nice games here as of late since returning to the lineup. And he has his weaknesses and faults, right? I don't disagree. I still don't love him as a player. Takes little too many penalties for my liking, but he's physical, and he that's what he brings to the table. But has been better here recently. I do want to get into Miro Heiskanen because I watched the game against Montreal on the bus last night, coming home from Shreveport, and what an absolute clinic for put together against the Habs. Absolute clinic, just brilliant stuff from Miro. Probably one of the top 4-5 games of his career. And I'm not exaggerating that. And yeah, he didn't have a point in the contest. I don't give a rip. That was a defensive specialty. And if you want to know how to play defense at the NHL level, you should pop up that film from Miro Heiskanen on Saturday night against the Habs. And I put this out on the Twitterverse following the game. Every Norris Trophy voter should be required to watch that game for Miro Heiskanen and tell me why he's not a finalist this season. Because he won't be. He won't be. Look, he doesn't have enough points. That's all that kind of matters now in days. Look, he's a top 3 defender in the world. And to me, he's not even 3. And on a lot of nights, I think he's not even 2. I think he is consistently one of the most underrated defensemen in the entire world. And on most nights is the best player on the sheet, even when players like Cale Makar are against him, and Quinn Hughes. And that's no disrespect, who, again, should be Norris Trophy level contending defenders. Like Hughes and Makar are phenomenal, okay? I'm not trying to take anything away from those two. But you have nights like that and you watch them and you're just, it's so easy. It's so effortless. And yeah, he's not flashy and he doesn't pirouette and he doesn't make a ton of like 40 head fakes like Lane Hudson does. But he wins hockey games. He wins hockey games. Just solely based off the little plays that he makes in the corners, just shutting down rush opportunities because of his stick, his positioning. He broke up that 2-on-1 in overtime when the Habs had something going. Miro breaks it up, and who knows if that pass gets across. Stars don't pick up the full 2 points. Okay, that's just sort of my soapbox because I thought it was incredible defending from Miro, and we get spoiled to watch it every night. And sometimes we just get glazed by what he does. And I was consuming the game, and I just, this is remarkable stuff from Miro. And hopefully it turned some heads since it was in Montreal on Saturday night. Maybe a lot of people were watching on Hockey Night in Canada. And again, how is he not a finalist? Because he probably won't be. I don't think he's even within the top 7 favorites in the Norris Trophy conversation. So anyways, I love Four, and I just have to show him some love. And yeah, he's not going to have 85 points this season. Who gives an absolute rip? I'll tell you this. He takes away 85 points a season. That's all I care about. He takes 85 points away from others. And I think that's a lot more valuable in a defenseman than how many power play points he can put together. Not saying he doesn't need to produce more on the power play, because he certainly does. But there's a lot more to this hockey game than that. Anyways, enough shade. Let's get into a bit of this finale of the road trip. Got Toronto on the road. Oh, it would be huge if they pick up a win and come back home taking 4 out of 5. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to plenty of us. You can have a few subscriptions you didn't even realize you were still paying for because you wanted to watch that one TV show that you really loved, and then you finished it and you forgot to unsubscribe. Well, Rocket Money makes it so easy to track all of those unwanted subscriptions, and it's like having a personal assistant for your finances. It helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps lower your bills, and in return, it helps you grow your savings. It brings everything together all in one place, all in one area. Whether it's subscriptions, it could be your spending habits, even goals you want to reach for this new year in 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved up to a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions for their customers, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app's premium features. So go ahead, cancel those unwanted subscriptions, and reach your financial goals in 2025 faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So the Stars have taken 4 out of the first 5 games of this road trip. 3 out of the first 4. I apologize for continuing to say 4 of the first 5. I'm sure plenty of you were going bonkers listening to me say that. But they have Toronto now on Tuesday nights, and I said coming into the road trip, if you get 3 or 4, it feels really good. This is a good road trip. You win on Tuesday, it becomes a great one. But to have an opportunity to take 8 out of the possible 10 points on this lengthy 8 to 9 days on the road, it's just a huge momentum boost heading into the final, about month before we reach the Four Nations face-off break. And you come home for a quick one-off against Montreal, which will be tough. We all know those can be absolute duds sometimes when you come home after a long road trip. Toronto, of course, is a tough ask, especially on the road. Dallas hasn't seen a lot of success against Toronto away from the AAC, and just really against the Maple Leafs as a whole. But it can be an absolute launching pad if you can find a way to secure 2 points on a Tuesday night against Toronto on the road. It's been such a quality road trip. The play's becoming more consistent. The emergence now of players like Mavrik Bourque and Dallas, which I love too here with the cap space they have. They're able to work in guys like Matthew Blumel, who are having fantastic seasons in the AHL, to bring him up and bring some fresh bodies in. And Huru, who I've really liked his short stint in the National Hockey League. It gives Dallas some levels, and they can sort of flex that depth. Whereas last season, even when Stankoven and Bourque were lighting up the world, they really didn't have opportunities to bring them into the fold because they didn't have to deal with a ton of injuries. So they couldn't use that cap space. I have to say, I need Liam Bichsel. I need Liam Bichsel back in the lineup. I think he could really round out this roster and give Dallas some more stability on the back end. Although they're still one of the best defensive teams in hockey. I think they were first a couple of days ago in terms of goals against, but they get bailed out quite a bit by some of their goaltending. And speaking of that, I thought Otter was superb on Saturday in Montreal as well. You're just starting to see a lot of the things that we were harping on coming into the season come together. And I said at the end of December, this little 5 to 8 game stretch to begin 2025 was going to be massive for Dallas and where they want to be and to eventually get to, because they had fallen out of a playoff spot for a few days. I know they were just second wild card and they had 3 games in hand, but they have catapulted themselves back to in reach of Minnesota and Winnipeg. And it's a very real possibility depending on how the next month goes, that the Stars at the Four Nations break are in first place in the Central Division. And I wouldn't have been saying that, 15 days ago. So it is a valuable stretch here of hockey for Dallas. The win streak and point streak certainly helps. Gosh, I'll say it. I want this game in Toronto as bad as anyone. I think all season long, because it would give such a ginormous boost for Dallas, and the confidence, I think, is starting to grow. And when you got Hintz flying around the way he is in Robo, Dallas is going to be a tough team here. I think they're going to be a tough team for the second half of the season, and they're sort of carving out an identity. It's not quite there yet, and hopefully you can bring Marchman back in the fold and Sagan at some point. More realistically, that's not going to be till possibly the postseason. This is a team that could start to find an identity with their young core, and like they're built to do some damage. This is how a lot of teams win in the postseason, with talent that is young, cheap, and can produce. Question is, will they produce? And if they do, and you get Robo and Rope firing the way they are, like that is a recipe for a lot of success come postseason. Can they match physicality and some of the high-end talent of other teams? No, they can't. But if they can wear you out with 4 lines and 6 defensemen, which they've shown to be able to do for a couple of rounds, it usually falls flat on its face because they have to ride some of their heavy horses like 4, 23, and 55. But Bischel under the mix. Hopefully Lundqvist is ready for that next step in the postseason. That's still a question mark. And I think you can put together, along with some additions at the trade deadline, they need a scoring winger. I'll say it. I think I would love Kreider on Dallas. The guy's just a net front presence. Just a scoring winger you can sort of add into the top 6. Some players like that. I think they have good team speed. They just need, I think, some more scoring, and you can always pick up another depth piece or a defenseman that you think you can get for a decent deal that you can possibly slide into your top 4. But it may come hefty price. That's the thing. It could be a hefty price. And as they touched on the broadcast today, it's a real hodgepodge in the Eastern Conference of teams that are still right in the thick of the playoff race. They're not going to be selling really anytime soon. We're probably going to have to wait till after Four Nations before some of these trades start to reel off, because a lot of teams are still in it, and they'll continue to give it a chance. So there are not a lot of teams that just know they're sellers right now. So I'm curious to see which teams sort of separate here over the next month or so. But Dallas is in a good spot. They really are. It's good to see them right back in the mix of the top 3, the Central, and they're not even fully healthy, and they're playing some of their best hockey of the season, and they're 6 points out with a couple of games in hand on Winnipeg. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow or Tuesday night against the Maple Leafs. Possibility to turn a road trip that's already good into a great one. We'll be back on a Tuesday to break down that one where Toronto can give Dallas some fits, as we've already seen a little bit of that this season back at the AAC. We'll play Shooting Star as always, and we'll have a ton of fun. Thank you for the love and support on all the episodes recently. Please be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Shout out to all you everydayers out there. Become an everydayer. I love when we can have conversations and engaging in the comments, because you guys are listening consistently, and sometimes I say some wild stuff, but that's what it's all about here. Just throw some things out into the universe, and hopefully it comes true sometimes. So thank you. As always, appreciate you for tuning in. This is going out on a Sunday, but this will be the Monday edition as well. Have a great rest of your day. wherever you may be listening or watching. We'll be back tomorrow. And as always, so long, Stars fans.